It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Wednesday. It's official. He's running.
Well, no, I don't think that's the big story of the day. The big story of the day, I actually believe, is
I meant Kennedy.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I thought the big story was actually Harrison giving us a little bit, Vice President Harris giving us a little bit of advice about how we should live our lives at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present.
So I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present.
So there you go.
You know what's funny is now when she does appearances, she has to take selfie videos. Nobody shows up to cover it.
I mean, I have to ask, was that did she go ad lib, or is that actually on the teleprompter?
No, that's her. I'm convinced she's her own speechwriter.
It's very important for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present. So think about this. Harris is telling you to be self-aware of the moment.
Well, here's the question. Do we exist in this moment in time, or is this the future? See, if I'm assigned to her on the road, that's the questions I'm going to ask. You mentioned the moment in time. Number one of my favorite songs from the 80s. I don't even know if it is a song from the 80s, but it sounds like one. I'm going with it. Number two, what if this isn't the moment in time and we're not really here?
What if this is all just an illusion?
Yes. What if there were no such things as hypothetical questions? And just let her ramble.
Let's discuss time and space with Vice President Harris.
Yes. If the time continuum folds in half.
Oh, we're so doomed.
And the Aquarius is in the second elephant moon. I don't even know if that's a thing. I'm just going to fold astrology into it.
Oh, I thought you were doing Aquarius by the fifth dimension.
No. It's more like the fourth dimension. And if we're watching the second episode of the original Star Trek, Next Generation, and you know which one I'm talking about, if you're a real fan, then how are we supposed to enjoy this moment in time? Knowing what the future is. Oh, my gosh. That would just be my hobby. Writing questions for her or her spokesperson. By the way, does she have a spokesperson? But don't I need a spokesperson? No, not really. You don't really need one.
And then she continued with this speech by saying, when the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the stars.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And if you can't find a partner, use a wooden chair.
The only thing I would say to her, well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe they got one of the songwriters from the Fifth Dimension. Was that the name of the band? Yeah. Maybe they got some of those writers to actually be her writer, and she's reading that off the teleprompter. Because I'm just shaking my head going, my God, it's just, oh.
Yeah, it's really horrible.
I mean, seriously, Marianne Williamson couldn't do better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So, I mean, the big news. Well, actually, it wasn't big news. You know, the funny thing is, the video was released as I was on my way. They released it like at 6 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Because it was released on my way home from work.
No, it's released at 5:06
Central.
our time.
Yeah.
And that's when it came across, and
So
it was right after we left here.
Yeah, the president's video that he is running again. You see some of the headlines. You know, you showed me the one from Politico. Biden launches campaign, then delivers speech not mentioning it, and then there's the other one that says, and this is Politico. Remember, they're a liberal magazine. Let me just make sure I get this one right. Here, Joe Biden's 2024 enthusiasm gap. The reality is many activists, natural surrogates to bolster Biden's message, are growing weary. And then Biden's campaign launch is immediately overshadowed by other events, other news stories, and his team loves it. The president wants, to a degree, to be the political background noise. This has to be the first time in history in American politics that a president and the campaign team announces that they're running for re-election and doesn't really want the American people to know that they're running for re-election.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my doctor called me today and said, "You missed your appointment. What happened?" I said, "I canceled." Well, no, but we didn't. No, I released a video this morning at 5 a.m. telling everybody that I was canceling my doctor's appointment. Did you not see it? I mean, this is the stupidity of the now Biden campaign. But they believe they can run while keeping him in the basement.
Yeah, I mean, this
is exactly what they're doing.
Well, that's the again that's the plan again. He's not. Here's the thing: he's not following the advice from his own vice president, because it should be very important to him for at this moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which he exists and is present.
But is he present now? Or was he present
He
then?
may not be present.
He might be present in the past. What if you're present in the future?
Good God. I just shook my head yesterday. I said, every single day. I mean, it's like you're in bizarro world. You seriously are in bizarro world when you sit there and go, wow, this has to be the first presidential campaign in history that the person running for president for re-election does not want the American people to really know that he's running for re-election. Well, here's the interesting point, too, because with Trump coming out and hinting that he doesn't want to be, may not, be in the Republican debates. Biden has basically said, I don't want to talk. I just want to shut up. And I want to be background. I really don't want to, promote anything. I don't want to do interviews. Trump might have the biggest success if he takes that advice across the board, too.
Well, think about it.
Trump should just go into the basement.
He doesn't have to give them any sound bites. You have a number of rallies where, and he can have as many rallies as he wants to have. You release your video.
Right. Do no interviews.
None.
Don't be, to the Trump campaign, tell Donald Trump not to be stupid and do interviews on 60 Minutes and the New York Times or ABC, NBC, and CBS. You should be running for re-election. In this day and age in the United States of America, and you should be announcing it in a primetime speech in an arena that fits 20,000 people. That's how you should announce.
I don't know if he can fill an arena with 20,000 people unless he gets the FBI to force them all in.
Well, you pay him.
I don't even know if you could pay him. I think you'd have to get the FBI to force them all in.
However you do it, that's what you do. That's what you do when you run, if you run for re-election.
Merrick Garland's at the door. He wants us to go to a Biden rally.
But, I mean, it's just bizarre. Well, we know why he did the video, because he doesn't want to, rumble, and stumble,
Well, there's the thing.
through a live speech. He can't do it.
And there's the thing, is that, and they knew, okay, you can't go throughout this entire day without making an appearance. So you make it at the union thing. And you have those union leaders on stage standing up, applauding every time you say something. And it was bizarre to watch. I was watching it live when it came across, and I thought, he's arguing with people who aren't arguing with him. Because he kept saying, I'm serious. This is when they were standing up cheering him. And it happened several times. And he's sitting there going, no, I'm serious. It's no joke. I'm serious. And nobody's arguing with you, dude. He can't get away from that defiant nature. He thinks everything is a challenge and an argument, even while he's being applauded by unions, literally.
Well, the union leadership that has betrayed the union membership for a couple of decades.
Oh, yeah. No, they're standing on that stage with him, and they're applauding. They're standing up and leading the cheers and the whole thing while they take union dues.
To destroy union
jobs.
To
destroy the union jobs. And if you have any questions, ask the rail union.
Yeah. Ask the pipeline unions.
Yep. And by the way, don't worry for the union rank and file. Your dues may be going to kill your job, but you can learn to code.
Yes. Exactly.
Good luck. ...
.. Morse code.
Right.
Yeah, you can go. Stop complaining. Yeah, just amazing. What a bizarro day it was yesterday. But yeah, when you sit there and think about it now, Trump, if he doesn't, that would be an interesting campaign. No debates on either side in the primaries at all.
Right. And if Trump gets the nomination, why go to a debate with Biden?
Why go to just don't go to a debate.
Now, the Biden camp would love that if he doesn't ever have to get on a debate stage. That's a gift to Biden.
Well, I think one of the things is Trump's not going to sign a letter saying he will endorse somebody else.
Right.
You see the story that the inner circle of the Trump campaign is trying to get him to agree. They're really pushing him to take DeSantis as his vice president. That's not going to happen.
No, I don't see that.
DeSantis isn't going to do that.
No.
I just saw that story. I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. And here's the thing. If Trump decides not to debate, if I'm DeSantis, I wouldn't debate either. If Trump's not going to be there, you don't make yourself vulnerable to take shots when the other guy isn't going to be there.
Right.
So there'd be no debates.
Right.
Let me ask you this question. Are debates really necessary in this day and age, or do we know enough about the presidential candidates and where they stand?
I don't think debates are important anymore, even in the general. I don't think they're important because the only purpose of the debates is so people like Chris Wallace can have their moment. Mm-hmm. Forget that. No. You can have your own moment. You control the conversation at your own rallies, in your ads. And if anybody has a question, the one thing about DeSantis, he doesn't have a problem with the media and taking questions as a governor. He's been able to shut the media down repeatedly and put them in their place. And, so if you can control the conversation anywhere else, you don't need to go into the debate because the debate is always about putting you on the ropes and handing the Democrat who's on the stage a gift. That's the idea.
Now, the only reason you would do it is for DeSantis to do it is to say Donald Trump is afraid to debate me.
Yeah.
And that would be your basic, here's what I plan on doing, Donald Trump, and you continue to say that throughout it. Donald Trump, by the way, we're all here talking about this issue, and Donald Trump is not. He's afraid to debate me.
Well,
that's the danger that Trump would have, because they would have a series. There would be a number of primary debates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll probably have, 5 debates by the time you get to the first primary?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that would be that would be there. If you, I mean, there's an upside, then there's a downside of it, because if you're in a debate, you're going to take shots from the other candidates. Does it really matter? It depends who the candidates are. But if Trump isn't there, if everybody in unison says, "Yep, we're up here," and Trump isn't, he's afraid to debate. He's afraid. Why is he afraid to debate? Why is he afraid to debate? And the other thing is that if Trump isn't there, any questions about Trump really don't have to be answered if he's not sitting there. Well, look, he's not here. I'm not going to get into Trump. I'm going to talk about the issues that I believe in.
Right. If he wants
Trump's
to debate
not
me,
here.
he can come to the stage.
Right.
The one thing about DeSantis is it's exactly what I just said. On a debate stage or anywhere else, he can control his own conversation. He's capable of doing that. And so he doesn't have to worry about a debate, but the whole idea of, pre-endorsing the nominee that you don't know who it's going to be is ridiculous. And more, I think about it, and it's the RNC acting more like the DNC in that regard. They need to stop doing that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Cold weather takes a toll on trucks. As warmer weather rolls in, it's time to assess the impact winter has had on your vehicle to help avoid downtime and keep your rig rolling through to next winter. Spring temperature swings can cause your tire pressure to fluctuate. Start your spring maintenance routine by checking your tire pressure and make sure your tires are properly inflated based on the load you're hauling. Underinflated tires cause premature wear, reduced fuel economy, and premature tire failures. Take care of your tires now before you find yourself stranded roadside this spring.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella.
Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 86690 Red Eye. We got a great show today. Anthony Fauci. Hey, I didn't personally close down anything.
Uh-huh.
I just told everybody to close down everything.
Uh-huh. I didn't have any authority.
I didn't have any authority. I didn't close down things. I just told everybody to close down things. We'll get to the specific things that he said. He seems to be panicking here.
No,
he seems to be.
I suspected that was going to be the case after he retired, and especially when the Republicans gained the House, he knew he was going to be the center of the investigation. There was no way he wasn't, and it's all coming together. You think back at it and all the exchanges with Rand Paul. Rand Paul really did a great job, during those exchanges. And I think that back and forth was a very important a set of events. And there's going to be, apparently, a lot more of them.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 86690 Red Eye. So just briefly, I mean, it's obvious what the Biden campaign is planning on doing. Biden will again campaign from the basement. There's not going to be any primary debates, so he's not going to have to deal with that, and he's going to continue not to do any, because it's become now standard. There is no reason. There is no pressure for them because they've gone so long with him really doing any type of sit-down. He'll only do sit-downs with friendly media that will ask no tough questions, all softball questions. And other than that, he will say nothing except, prepared remarks. And, of course, say the stupid things that he says occasionally when he doesn't follow the teleprompter. But they believe the American public is used to it. And they believe that by looking at the polls, that it doesn't matter because Trump will be the nominee, and they believe that Biden will be Trump again because Trump will destroy his own campaign, as they believe he did last time.
The MO is clear now. I think he's going to be doing the president is going to do a lot of ribbon cuttings like he did yesterday.
Yep.
To be, speaking in front of very friendly groups, no questions. Prepared remarks and then you make sure that they have the crowd and they also have the coach on stage so that when he says something, you bring the energy up like they did yesterday multiple times by getting your people to stand up and applaud the president over and over again so he can repeat, "No, I'm serious, no joke. No, I'm serious, no joke." It's horrible, but it's the only thing they have. And they're not going to do an open presser. That's not going to happen.
Yep.
I don't see him getting in front of the media again in an open, Remember the Rose Garden? I'm old enough to remember that the White House has a Rose Garden.
Yes.
And it has been the center, in fact, the real venue for press events for a long, long time in modern times. And no, the president has to take the side door today. They're mopping in the front or mowing or weed eating or something. And he's going to avoid the media like a plague because he's not capable of answering questions. And he really, I don't know how much caffeine they put into him yesterday. But, man, he was really charged up.
Well, I believe that in response, I would not be surprised if Trump did not do the debates. I was reading here Sean Spicer yesterday saying that all the primary debates must be done by conservative outlets and moderators, that you can't do it. He goes, the Republican National Committee announced that it will follow the tradition started in 2016 by holding the first presidential debate for the GOP candidates in conjunction with its August meeting in Milwaukee. It has been 8 years since the RNC first used its clout to organize the first debate in Cleveland, Ohio. It is critical for the RNC to build upon the success of that cycle as conservative voters pick our next nominee. Prior to the 2016 presidential cycle, neither political party had a role in formulating and sanctioning their respective presidential primary debates. As silly as it sounds today, the mainstream media apparatus literally dictated every aspect of the primary debates, where they would be, who would moderate them, and when they would occur. The RNC literally had no influence over the stage upon which Republican nominees were compared and evaluated. All that changed when I proposed, this is Sean Spicer, the RNC insert itself into the process heading into the 2016 cycle. The RNC's creation of a new standing committee on presidential debates resulted in the first successful effort of either party to control and sanction their primary debate process. For the first time in history, the RNC was able to provide Republican candidates with a predictable schedule, ensure that every debate was centered around conservative policy elements. The RNC partnered with multiple mainstream media outlets on all sides of this ideological spectrum. CNN partnered with conservative-leaning Salem Media. ABC News selected conservative journalist Mary Catherine Ham as moderator and partnered with the Independent Journal Review, and CBS chose the Wall Street Journal's Kimberly Strassel to question the candidates in the debate. Starting in August of 2015, we held one debate a month, which, again, that means you would have one in August, September, October, November, December. And I guess, so you're talking about 6 or 7 debates by the time you seriously get into primary season. And if Trump wasn't in there in any of those, and I don't know. It's an unknown as to how the party would actually, look at it. But as Sean Spicer says, that everyone here, the debates must be led by conservative outlets and moderators. And again, it all depends who those conservative moderators are. Now, when you look at when Ronna McDaniel yesterday said that, all media will be involved in it, but there will be a conservative element, that wasn't good enough for us. We heard that. We went, nah, don't like it, don't like it, don't like it, don't like it.
Well, because it could go two different ways. If you were to try and, in the past, folded Chris Wallace under that umbrella, then you would be wrong to do so. And I think that has been clearly demonstrated now. If you don't get that by now, you're not paying attention. Or the other side of it. You mentioned, the one debate where Mary Catherine Ham and Kimberly Strassel were the moderators. Well, I don't follow Mary Catherine Ham as closely as I have Kimberly Strassel from Wall Street Journal because of the work that she did on the whole Russian hoax thing and so many things. But I would also caution one of the things that the RNC, I don't know if they even pay attention to this. Based on their decisions, I really don't know if they care. But real journalists are also going to ask some tough questions. And it's not necessarily that they are trying to create that soundbite moment for themselves or their organization. It is going to be that naturally, but they are going to ask some questions based on the issues, which is what we should all expect. I guess my point is I don't know what the RNC expects, because it isn't and shouldn't be a softball event. If we want to play softball, we can all go to a field. And so I would love to see, because that's what every primary should be. And it should be on the issues. And I wouldn't even consider them to be hardball questions. They're just issue-based questions. Mm-hmm. But by comparison today, it could be seen as hardball questions. But that's what should be expected.
You and I talked about this yesterday. How the RNC believes that they need ABC, CBS, that they need their audience. And I asked the question, well, do they? You're talking about Republicans. Mm-hmm. Republicans would go to Fox. Mm-hmm. Republicans would go to Newsmax.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they would go to that and whatever streaming platform you had.
Yeah.
And so, I don't believe you need now for the general election, that may be a different story. You need the networks and you want, more of a broad-based, debate that you believe, or a more widespread platform in order to promote what you believe. But it still doesn't do any good. You and I go back to, and by the way, if I'm Trump, I probably would say, unless I know that it's people that are fair, and after the Chris Wallace debacle, where Chris Wallace lied by omission, and he was viewed as, okay, he's the conservative there, or he's representing conservative, and lied about Charlottesville.
Yeah.
By omission. And Trump didn't answer it correctly. You and I talked about that.
Well, it was a question to Biden, but Trump should have responded. He should have controlled the conversation.
He should have responded to that. But Chris Wallace lied about it. If I'm Trump, I don't need a debate now. Because if you get into it and it's Biden and Trump, everybody knows. There's no debate. The people that sit there go, well, I need to know what they're, bye.
Yeah, right.
And Biden, if Trump said, I don't want to debate, I guarantee the Democrats would say, we don't want to debate.
Right.
Now, it depends who says it first, though. Because if Trump said, no, I'm not going to debate because the mainstream media and what happened to me last time, then the Democrats would probably, in a subtle way, because they really don't want Biden to debate, would say, see, he doesn't want to debate. Well, that's fine. We won't debate either.
I almost, in my mind, I'm almost wondering if by then if it is to be Trump versus Biden, the rematch, I almost wonder if Trump stood up and said, no, I don't have a problem debating Biden. If the Biden camp would, listen, the president is not even going to entertain a debate with a known racist.
No, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, try and get their way out of it by saying, oh, well, the president is not even going to dignify.
Right. Well, bring the cancel culture to debates.
Yes,
we're going to cancel the debates.
Yes.
Just like.
Because we're not going to give him the last word. We're not going to. We'll have the last word in November. Yay. Right. Whatever. I could see them doing that. That's the only way you can keep him in the basement. If Trump decides that he wants to debate Biden, I could see Biden doing that. Will it happen? I don't know.
I said this a couple of weeks ago, and it was in my gut with Newsom all over the place. I'm like, my gut, something in my gut tells me Biden isn't going to run. Well, I was wrong on that. He is going to run. That's why, by the way, that's what I made sure I said it's not a prediction. It's just in it's in my gut because Newsom was all over the place and putting out the ads and criticizing and, saying, I'm going to go to these blue states or I'm going to go to these red states and tell them why being blue is better. And we're like, well, this is really weak. And I said, but the only reason he can be doing it is, they sense that Biden may not run.
Yeah,
and
right.
I can't believe that Biden's family is letting him run. That is to me mind-boggling that that's allowed to happen because his and they all lie. Which by the way, it's okay to make fun of Biden because you can't make fun of him. It's dementia. Nope, it's not. They claim it's not.
Yeah, tell that to everybody who's defending him and saying he's fine.
Yeah, there's no problem at all. Fetterman is fine.
That's
There's
right.
no problem with Fetterman at all. He's fine.
He's perfectly
Biden's
capable.
Fine. So when people mock the president, go, well, that's really unkind because no, we're being told he's as quick that his cognitive ability is better than it's ever been before.
Right.
They're outright lying to us about it. So what's worse, the mocking of Biden or the lying to the American public about his cognitive abilities?
Right.
I would say the line about the cognitive abilities is the biggest problem. Now, I don't make it a habit to mock elderly people because I'm slowly becoming one.
Yeah. One day you will be one. One day.
Way down the road someday. I will be one of those people.
Watching him yesterday, and it's the news alert came across, and it was like, watch him live, and I realized that I had seen the alert right as it happened, and I thought, all right, I'll check it out. He was really charged up. I don't know how much caffeine they gave him, but he was really charged up. And the bizarre behavior of arguing with people who aren't arguing with you. I'm serious. It's no joke. Nobody's questioning. They're cheering. Nobody's challenging you. This is how it's going to go. It's going to be a series of ribbon cuttings, essentially between now and November of next year. Those will be his campaign stops.
Very quickly, we'll play this cut. Ready?
All right.
Very quickly. It's very quick.
Think about it this way. My grandpop, who I never met, he died in the same hospital I was born in 2 weeks before I was born.
That's untrue. That was the lie that everybody picked up on yesterday.
Yeah.
No, that's not true.
Yeah. Didn't happen that way. Everything's fine.
But you're right. You could see his hands were like he's.
Yeah. No,
he was
really
amped up.
worked up.
Yep.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 86690 Red Eye. More gaslighting coming from Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday.
Yeah.
Republicans want fentanyl on the streets and crime to be bad.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Plus Fauci and more.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, 86690 Red Eye. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Yes.
And thank you.
Well, good morning. I'm trying to show as much excitement here in the middle of the night as Joe Biden did in his speech yesterday.
Serious.
Before the unions.
It's no joke.
No, it's no joke.
No joke.
No joke. Serious.
We're serious.
Serious, man. We're serious. Come
Jack.
on. Come on, man. Jack.
Come on, Jack.
Here's Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday. You ready for this?
All right.
All right. As talking about the Republicans and again their proposal to cut spending because we shouldn't be putting the burden of what we want today on our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren.
Millions. It's clear that the Speaker's bill breaks House Republicans' commitment to America. In the run-up to the 2022 election, House Republicans promised to put cops on the beat. Instead, they're fighting to put fentanyl on the street by defunding Border Patrol. Their proposal makes clear that only things House Republicans are committed to giving to Americans are increased crime.
There you go. And the reason I called it gaslighting earlier is because it's well known the Republicans have introduced the Border Reinforcement Act of 2023, calling for a resumption of the border wall, hiring 22,000 new Border Patrol agents, and supporting local law enforcement. I mean, that's just gaslighting because as we know, that's the biggest criticism against the Biden administration is the fentanyl on the streets because of what they're doing. So trying to turn it around, but nobody's going to buy it.
Well, and this whole thing about the Border Patrol, the Democrats wouldn't even show up to the hearings about the Border Patrol.
No, they wouldn't. No. So
it's laughable. And if you're going to read, learn to read better.
Oh, the one audio. I don't think I played the audio off the air, but she was answering a question, and she said nothing, but she was the movement. She's looking down as she's talking. It was bad. Yet Biden was better than her yesterday.
Yeah. No, I mean they both kind of looked wired. They looked like a comedian John Mulaney before he went through rehab.
Well, they did look
all over the
seriously,
place.
They did. She did look. I mean, because she was moving back and forth. Let me see if I can. I wasn't planning on playing that audio cut now, but let me see if I can find it here because it was just. And you can't. You can't. You can't see it. So I mean, it's. That's the problem. And okay, this is the one where about finish. I mean, it's a dumb question. The reporters sometimes ask dumb questions. And be more specific, but this one is on, finishing the job. What does that mean? It's like, because the president said he's going to finish the job. I do like the Jared Baker in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. We read part of that editorial, that op-ed piece that said 4 more years.
Yeah.
Sounds like a prison sentence. You didn't get parole. He said, sorry, 4 more years.
It does. It sounds like a really horrible sequel to Shawshank Redemption.
But here she is yesterday. Here we go.
Can you explain what it means? I mean, the president's powers are limited. His term in office is limited. What is the job? How could any president finish it?
So look, The president has talked about this many times, including members of his administration. You heard him talk about it during the State of the Union, finishing the job. Look, he ran and won on his agenda in 2020. And so he has, of course, used similar language to update the American people as he works to fulfill his promises. The president believes that he needs to continuing deliver to deliver for the American people. You hear us talk about his economic policy and how it has.
So it goes on. She says nothing. We don't have to continue it. But the funny thing is, as the question's being asked, she's going through the binder looking.
Yeah.
And then what she's doing now is she does part ad lib and then jumps down and looks at a paragraph. And then reads that paragraph and then goes back to ad lib and then reads a couple of, and you can see her looking up and then going down. And then when she doesn't look at the text and when she looks down at the text and you can tell she's reading again, I mean, it was just bad. And she's moving back and forth. It was bad yesterday.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, it really was. You know, it's on a day that should have been filled with at least a certain level of euphoria. The announcement of his bid. Now, I know she can't talk about that because she doesn't want to violate the Hatch Act. But the announcement of the reelection bid for any sitting president that day should be a lot more euphoric than it was. I'm not saying Obama 2008 euphoric. But they just looked odd yesterday. You know, I said we were about this time yesterday morning going through what the scenarios would be because we knew everybody had been reporting for a few days by the time we did yesterday's show that they were going to release a video. But does he not make an appearance anywhere? Because it's going to be weird. And it was weird. You know, the thing is that here's what you typically would have seen. A sitting president reelection bid. Sure, release the video at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Eastern, and then an hour later you're on the Today Show.
Yeah.
And then an hour after that you're on Good Morning America. And then an hour after that you're on The View. And then an hour after that, you're meeting with the lawyers from The View to go over what they said about you after you left to make sure that it's accurate. And then an hour after that, you're making another campaign stop wherever it's going to be. That's when you're talking to the union. This president is afraid of the media. And everybody who works for him is afraid to put him in front of the media.
You know, when we talk about, you know, this election, and the Democrats believe that, you know, we start out the show saying that they can basically put Biden in the basement and Trump will self-destruct. They believe he did it. That's what they believe happened the first time, and they believe it will happen a second time, and that Trump cannot get more votes than he got in 2020.
Right.
That will not happen because he's turned off too many people. They look at, you know, the civil case going right now on the woman who accused him of as they call it, the rape case from 96.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a civil case, but if he's found guilty, they're going to say Trump found guilty of rape.
Right.
They're going to, and that's going to be, and they look at that and they say there's no way, there's no possible way that he can win. So let's take this election out of it for just a little bit. I was reading National Review had an article on it about why woke companies turn off their why woke companies turn off their customer base. What in the world is going on?
Right.
Why do they do that? And it reminded me of what Bernard Goldberg said about bias in the media. They don't think that they're liberal and you're conservative. They believe that you're flyover country. They believe you're just in the cities. I mean, they think this about the people that vote for them. That you aren't intelligent people. That they are the elite. They are the ones that are gifted. They are the ones that are all knowledgeable. They know how society should run. and they know what the morality is. They actually do. I mean, the insanity, and this was talking about, really the liberal transgender activist movement, because they brought up the Mulvaney case, that why would you think this? Because it's just, we said it a couple of weeks ago, this doesn't seem like a political winner. Why would they do it? Because it's pure evil what they're doing, wanting to sexualize, teaching sexualized content to kids and groom kids. And it's insanity. I mean, it's just pure insanity. Men competing against women. It's insanity. Mm-hmm. And it's almost as if they look at it and go, no, we have a higher morality. I don't know how they justify the morality and don't see the sexism and misogyny and the mindset, the child abuse mindset. But I'm just telling you, that's how I believe they think. And this article in the Wall Street Journal was saying the same thing. They look at you and just go, oh, you're the peons.
Yeah.
You're just eking out a living. We're the ones that design and run society. You see a lot of this in the Ivy League schools, that they believe. And the entire point is they're promoting insane ideas that don't work. They're not the smart ones. Right. They're the idiots.
Yeah.
And they think the opposite. They think that, no, we think better than you. And so you look at this and you look at where the Democratic Party has gone overall. The Democratic Party is not the party of the working class. Right. They're not. They're the party of the elite and what the elite views as the major issues of the day, which the average Joe and Jane look at and say, that's insanity. Yeah. But that's what they've become. And so you look at a party like that, if any advice to the Republican Party, and I think they already know this, it's obvious because you can see the movement, you can see that minorities are slowly coming over to that particular side. That they're becoming more favorable to the Republicans. It may be slow, but it wasn't for Hispanics. Hispanics move quite quickly. You look at what's going on in the cities right now, where still the majority of the cities are minority. The only thing that is keeping Democrats going right now is anti-Donald Trump, the promotion of systemic racism that does not exist. Not saying there's not racism. There is not systemic racism in this society today. We get along way better, and the mindset of individuals is completely different than where it was even 60, 70 years ago. Completely different.
Yeah.
In our society.
Yeah.
But they're hanging on to everything. They're hanging on to the fears and the paranoia which they as a political party helped to create with Jim Crow laws and when you look back at it. It can only last so long. Nothing that they are doing right now concerns the vast majority of people who are struggling under the inflation that exists today. And it's because they view themselves as elite. For example, you can't question Biden, as we're talking about. Come on, Jack. I'm serious. You can't even argue with me.
Even when you're applauding for him, he challenges you.
But you see across the board, and you had mentioned it earlier, Biden will simply say, I'm not going to debate with Trump. He's a racist. Right. Well, you look at the history. You look at the history of both men and tell me who the racist actually is.
Right. That's very clear.
Who's been close? Who plays the race baiting game on a consistent basis? It's Biden, but they will continue to use that because they're holding on.
Something we have talked about, but also points out the arrogance. We talk about the arrogance that runs throughout and defiance that runs throughout the Biden administration. But the individuals that he points to in this piece in National Review, the ones who are believe they are the anointed, they are they're not going to deal with the deplorables, and as she mentioned, the marketing person for Bud Light talked about the whole frat boy thing.
Right.
That's how they think. That's the arrogance, and also the arrogance and defiance that you should expect that runs throughout a great number of people who are put into decision-making roles. Think about that. You're in charge of marketing for the number one domestic beer. All you got to do is more of what you're doing. But no, you're going to make your own mark. This whole moment was about her. She was trying to make herself the hero. And now she's quite possibly going to be out of a job. But that's how they think. That's the arrogance, the same arrogance you see and defiance you see in Biden and his administration. They think you don't count. They don't think of you as equals.
Same thing that Bernard Goldberg said in Bias such a long time ago, that the people at the top in the media, they don't view themselves as liberal. Right. They view themselves as correct, and they are instructing everybody else because of their high education,
right? Yes,
and their incredible intelligence,
right?
That, I mean, they're selling ideas that are bizarre, simplistic, and wrong, and false, but it doesn't matter. We're just telling you how they think,
right? And
the same thing happens with the elite liberals today. That's how we need to instruct you the proper way that society should operate. We are the ones. We are the moral arbiters.
I heard someone trying to make the case in defense of who we might call the deplorables, or, working class, and then saying something. The person said, he was a guest on a podcast, and he said something to the effect of, "Well, even the people who are highly educated," and I thought, dude, you just stepped right into that same arrogance. You're trying to separate them as because they have a degree from a certain university?
Means nothing.
It means zero. Zero.
Degree. I've got a degree. It means nothing.
Well, and
it means no. It is no indicator whatsoever
of intelligence.
Intelligence.
It is not.
None.
Nope.
866-90 Red Eye.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. Costs are not the same each month. If 9,600 miles are driven one month and 10,000 miles the next, two different sets of costs apply for each month. For example, if your tractor payment is $1,850 per month and you drive 9,600 miles in the month, your tractor payment is costing you 19.3 cents per mile. Drive 10,000 miles, though, and that same payment will cost you 18.5 cents per mile. This is one of your major fixed costs while paying off a truck loan. The difference in this example is only a fraction of a cent, which may seem like small change, but it ultimately amounts to $960 more annually on the bottom line. Because though fixed costs do not go down over time, you can reduce your cost per mile with more paid miles. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Shell Rotella. Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90 Red Eye. So I guess the whole point is, when you look at the Republican Party and the Democratic Party for the future, I mean, not looking at 2024, but I mean going out 15, 20 years, where's the Democratic Party going to go? Because they keep alienating. It's part of the discussion we've had on a consistent basis. They're alienating the working class. They're destroying the cities.
Yeah.
The great cities they're destroying. They're betraying the people that vote for them each and every day on crime, on inflation, on cost of living, on jobs. And you shake your head and you say, where's the end game for the Democrats? I know where the end game is for Republicans, or excuse me, the growth game. I'll say that, because there is no end game, because unless we're facing the end, So
Yeah.
it's like, where is the growth? I can see where the growth of the party is for the Republican Party. Tell me where the growth is for the Democrats. I don't see it.
Right.
Our phone number works within the U.S., its territories, and protectorates. 1-866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. 866-90 Red Eye. Yeah. So when you look at where the Democrats are going, and you take all the major issues, it's not benefiting anybody in the working class at all. In fact, it's really not benefiting anybody. The only thing that they're involved in is just some type of bizarro moralities that only the elite understand.
Yeah.
And that would be the liberal transgender activist movement, critical race theory. You think about these things and how posterior backwards everything is. Think about this. In this day and age, the Democratic Party is attractive to the elite who now run it on concepts like racism is believing in the autonomy of an individual and judging a person by the content of their character. That's racism. Anti-racism is judging people by the group that they are in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pure insanity. The liberal transgender activist movement, you understand it yourself. But you see these people. I mean, you and I talked about Kevin Bacon and his wife yesterday, talking about drag shows and that's the kind of, think about that. What type of mind? Who even thinks like that? We don't know anybody who actually thinks like that, because most of the time we're just dealing with the average person.
It's not like a reaction to an event, where there was, a drag performer in a classroom and they read to a bunch of children, and then celebrities were asked, what do you think about that? And they just said, well, I saw the video. I thought it was harmless. They're going out of their way to be activists, calling it a right for the drag performers to be in front of your children. That's light years. You're on a different planet.
Right. And so anything that they do on crime, we know. I saw the story the other day about one of the assistants to Bragg coming out saying, yep, we can control and change society by not prosecuting crime. Well, who the hell are you appealing to?
Right.
And so eventually, and I don't know, I mean, it's taking longer than you would think. But except for that and abortion, where they believe they have half the country if they can frame it right. Mm-hmm. That's it. Where is the growth in the Democratic Party? Where are the issues that they can grow on? I can't tell you. It doesn't exist. And they don't seem to care that it doesn't exist, because I believe that they are all in their own bubble. We've talked about this. They are so isolated with the elite that anybody else who challenge that's why, if you want to look at when they say, well, we don't even want to debate with you because you're evil. If you're not with us, we don't need to explain. Think about this. We don't need to explain why we believe biological men can be biological women because they say so. There is no urgency or interest in explaining to you why we believe that. And if you ask me out of general curiosity why I believe that, well, then you're something phobic and you want people to die and you're advocating violence. Well, I want to know why you think that way. I want to get inside, your brain. No, you're a bigot. I'm going to hit you.
The conversation is violence.
Yes.
The reality is that as of yesterday, the likely nominee for their party does not have the majority of people behind him in their own party. The majority of people in their own party don't want him. Yet, he's likely the guy. Unless he drops out for health reasons, he's going to be the nominee.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have the support of the party. And between now and next summer, their convention in Chicago, I can't imagine what that's going to be like between now and then. What might build to be essentially their presentation. Now, we know that the liberal transgender movement is going to be front and center. There's no doubt. That's going to be front and center. They're likely also going to be promoting that we have a right to make decisions for your children, and you as a parent shouldn't have that right if you disagree with us. This is where the party is. And again, if you're sitting in a political strategy room, you're looking around going, you're all on drugs. You're all out of your mind. You need to not ever say any of these things out loud to anyone again and leave this room and pretend it never happened.
Well, you think that inside a political party you would have some kind of great thinkers, people who sit back and say, what's the future? What's the future for our party and the issues that we endorse? How are we bringing people together? And we've talked about the basics of politics in order to win long-term and then eventually short-term, because if you can win long-term, you can win short-term. You've got to bring people together on the issues that they agree with.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, everything that they believe in is about separating people. Nothing is about unifying. And in order to unify, you have to be willing to listen. Well, they're not willing to listen. Either you believe with us or you're the enemy. And that's across the board. Mm-hmm. Think about this. Doesn't matter whether you're a liberal. Doesn't matter whether you're a Matt Taibbi or a Michael Schellenberger.
Nope.
It doesn't matter whether you're a liberal like Elon Musk. Nope. You must agree with the insanity of everything that we believe, or you immediately become the enemy.
Yeah.
And when you look out and you project out, I think one of the fears about Biden is they believe the Democratic Party. Now, this isn't necessarily the voter. This is when we talk about the just so people understand that, because we know that there are Democrats that disagree with the direction the Democratic Party is going in right now. They disagree on the polls show they disagree on the issues of where the Democrats stand. But they do look at the Republican Party and say, we're fearful because of Trump. Yeah. And we're fearful because of racism. Even if it doesn't exist, there's a portion that still have been convinced that it does. But they don't agree at all with, and I think it's a great opportunity, by the way, for Republicans to point out, well, no, the real racism exists inside the Democratic Party with identity politics.
Right.
Now, the message is slowly getting across. But, and I believe that the future for the moral ideology, which is you judge a person by the content of their character, that they are autonomous, no physical characteristic, should be how you judge a particular person or stereotype a particular person. I think most Americans agree with that. I think most Americans, you said this yesterday, I believe, off the air. We're right now in a society where it's basically the mindset of the people. I'm not talking about the political party, the Democrats, but the people is basically live and let live.
Yeah.
Which means,
right.
The Democrats are trying to say that the Republicans don't want drag shows.
Right.
That the Republicans don't want books. They want books. Mm-hmm. they're trying to make the case that everything that exists right now that they're defending is about the adults.
Yeah.
And it's not. That's not the argument.
Right.
The argument is about the kids.
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether I agree with drag shows. It doesn't matter whether I agree with the liberal transgender activist movement. And this is probably how a significant portion of people that are libertarian conservative think. It doesn't matter what I think. I can't tell you what to do in the privacy of your own, your own house if you're an adult.
Right.
So go do what you want, or if you're on private property, go do what you want. Whether I disagree with it really isn't the issue.
Yeah. Right.
It's about the children and what we should do with the children. They're trying to ignore that, except I believe the Republicans have been partially successful in that, because now you have Democrats on the federal level coming out and saying, you're taking away children's rights to decide that they wish to mutilate their bodies. Not probably the smartest sell by some Democrats out there. Now, they're not saying it that way, but that's the message that they're sending.
That's what they're fighting for.
Right. That's what they're fighting for. So, and so you look at it overall, and I think that they are delusional in their thoughts that they actually believe that they're moral. You can tell by the emotion. They somehow have this bizarre morality. I don't know where it comes from. I can't figure it out. I know that the members of Congress understand that it's pure horse manure.
Yeah.
But
right.
they believe that that's, that there may be some that don't, and maybe some that actually believe it. I don't actually believe that Biden or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer believes that a biological male is a female because he says so. Mm. They've been around too long. And I know what where they've stood on the issues in the past. They don't buy it, but they believe that that's how they survive right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think that the activists and the movement out there and the Democratic Party, what they're worried about Biden is he can't sell the message. Yeah, he's not successfully selling.
Right.
He may be doing their radical things.
But he can't get the message done, and
right.
he clearly can't get it done with the media because he seems to be fighting with the friendly media for no reason.
Right.
And that's the frustration of the liberal media right now. It is, wait a minute, hold on, we want talking points. Just hand us something that we believe we can sell to our readers and viewers and listeners. And they refuse to do it, and they go to war with the media that is friendly to them for no reason. I mean, that's the frustration of the liberal media. Then you look at the moves they've made. You mentioned the elite, but look at all the benefits. Look at all the benefits that the wealthy have gotten under Biden and their moves. Look at the all the green energy moves where and they're trying to tell you, well, if you don't have to pay high gas prices if you just go buy an EV.
Yeah. Biden was doing it yesterday.
Yeah.
All these rebates that are available to people.
Who has the money?
If you've got $50,000 to spend, we'll give you $1,000 off.
Exactly.
Whoa, what a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Right.
I don't have the $50K at the moment.
Right. And over again, they can't understand why working class individuals are frustrated. They don't understand why people are saying, you're not doing anything for us.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90-RED-EYE. And so that's the problem for the Democrats when you look long term. Forget about 2024. You just say, okay, where's the country going? I mean, on the issues, where do people really agree, and what's the reasonable common sense solution? You know, they're having the debate right now, and of course the Democrats are looking at the debt ceiling and saying, We have to do it. The people want it now. It doesn't matter what we do with the future. Well, that's why the average American understands, well, yeah, we need to take care of the future. And if I can get what I need now, I want what I can get now. But, yeah, we all know it's bad what we're doing as a country. We know it's immoral to be putting our debt on future generations. Now, the Republicans ought to frame it more in that particular way because there's no way you can justify it. Once you frame it that way, you can't justify it. There isn't an issue that the Republicans cannot effectively argue with the Democrats where they don't have the vast majority of Americans behind them. Now, you may not win short term. You will with where you stand on the issues win long term because there's no other choice. We have seen it. We've seen what the spending does with inflation. That's the whole point. The selfishness that the Democrats promote and the envy has gotten us to the point of inflation now.
Yeah.
Everything that we see, everything that the federal Democratic Party mindset has promoted is what you see in the inner city today, is what you see in inflation, is what you see on the border, is what you see in the racism that they teach with the identity politics and in the liberal transgender activist movement. And it's all encompassed in insanity. And Claire McCaskill ran the ad. She's not a crazy Democrat back a few years back. That thought is already in people's minds.
Yes,
that's why the Democrats cannot win long term.
And it seems like there are even more crazy Democrats these days.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Well, it was a good day yesterday. I finally got my tree cut down, my dead tree. I got a ton of work to do. But no, I'm going to subcontract a ton of work around the house.
Oh, yeah.
This year, yes. Because
you've got a lot of work to watch.
I have a lot of work to watch, yes. Right. I've decided that I've been so busy that, and this came to the realization a couple of weeks ago when Trump is in court and he's got a billion things going on, and he's still golfing, and I'm not. And I'm taking lessons. So I finally realized
make time.
I've got to make time to do
the time.
Some of the things. And since I could be retired and am not and have decided to work, and it's like, okay, I can't be doing I can't be doing everything anymore. I don't have any time. And so I'm going to subcontract a bunch of different work out that I need around the house and golf more. It was a good time. The Independent Bob Golf Tournament.
Oh, good.
I call it that, but it's actually...
Who won?
I don't even know. I left, so I don't know who actually... I had to leave because it just ran later. It got cold. Yeah. But my new...
It was windy, too. Was it windy out on the course?
Yeah, it got windy. It started out nice and warm, but I was prepared. I was,
because you guys were north of here, so that's why I was asking.
Yes, yeah.
So, it was windy where I was.
And I have 4 shots that will always remain in my mind. And it's because it was the first time I tried out my new swing that I've, been doing. I've been taking lessons for the last 3.5 months, and I knew I would hit the ball great. But I mean, I hit the ball a couple of shots, in the wind.
Yeah,
that just especially with my 7-iron, and I hit some shots that everybody I played with went, whoa, where'd that come from? Oh, my lessons. Okay, if that's how you're going to be hitting it. Now, again, it was the first time out with it, and so you really don't have distance down because that's one thing I don't have down with the club because I hit the club now. I hit each club probably 10 to 15 yards more. So that changes everything, and so you got to figure out the wind. So I still had, some challenges, but I know I'm getting there, which was a a lot of fun. But, so yesterday I got the tree cut down, a bunch of other work done around the house. Dentist, which is always fun. Love going to see my dentist.
Right.
My dentist is always...
Good thing you're contracting that out.
Yes, I'm contracting. I decided to stop doing my own dental work.
Yeah, that super glue incident was not good.
I was talking to my dental hygienist on, because they go, man, Gary, you're a very open person and you ask a lot of interesting questions.
Yeah.
My question was, what's the most tartar? I'm there, and I'm in the chair, and she's cleaning my teeth. I go, all right, what's the most tartar you've ever had to take off a tooth? And she's like, well, it's like 4 millimeters or something. She goes, it's about that thick, really big. She goes, but speaking of that, the guy who came in this morning who could not remember the last time he'd been to the dentist, which they believe might be like 40 years.
Oh, wow.
I went,
yeah.
Oh, you must not want to work on them.
Yeah.
And she said, no, just the opposite. Just the opposite. She goes, that's a challenge.
Did he have any teeth left?
I didn't ask. I didn't get into the details of it.
Right. He could have just dropped them off. I'll be back later. Could you clean these? I'll be back.
40 years?
Yeah.
Wow. 40 years. That's so.
I went out back and thought I'd discovered a casualty of the deep freeze that we had this winter. And it turns out it was just a aging supply line for one of my faucets, so I had to fix that, replace that, rebuild that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had
digging and pipe work in about an hour.
Well, I think for my tree, it was I think it was insects that got it. From what I can tell, I'm not sure, but
yeah.
Only half of it, it started budding. Only half of it started budding. I'm going, okay, that comes down, and now the challenge is to deal with the Stalinis from the.
Oh yeah, you have
from the homeowners association.
Yeah, okay.
So I have to. So my neighbor filled me in on what I have to do.
Yeah,
and he said, so I had to pull 4 bushes because the freeze we had this year, Friezola killed the top half of the bushes. I had them all trimmed, and so they were just smaller bushes and were fine. And then the freeze we had this year killed the rest.
Yeah.
So I had those 4 bushes pulled, and I cut down the tree. Now, you have to have 2 trees on your property. I have 1 tree in the back. Smaller tree, but it's...
HOA rule.
HOA rule, yes. So I just can't tomorrow put a tree in and put the 4 bushes in. From what my neighbor has filled me in on, and I've got to contact the homeowner association tomorrow. He said he basically got he said my tree wasn't finished cutting and I had the notice of what I had to do. I mean, that's how quick. Now, I didn't get any notice, but I'm just going to stop by the office tomorrow. But from what I have to fill out like a multi-page thing about what I plan to do. And then I have to pick out of the pre-selected, there's only a certain kinds of trees allowed and bushes. And then I must...
Where does King Charles come into it?
Then I must put a diagram on it. Then I send it in to them. And then 30 days later, they will have the architectural firm. I'm not making this up. This is what my neighbor told me. The architectural firm will approve it within 30 days, and then you have 9 months.
Landscape architects.
Landscape architect, right.
Yeah.
Then I have... But I'm not doing anything. I'm not changing anything. I'm just replacing the bushes where they were. And I probably I'm only going to put, I used to have 2 trees in the front yard. I'm just going to have 1. I'll probably put that in the middle, but got to get that all approved. Get the landscape architect to do it. And then I have 9 months to complete the project or they start fining me.
So come after you.
Yes. Yes. So
cops at your door.
And it's
SWAT team.
And the funny thing is, it's like, yeah, but it would be done tomorrow if I didn't have to go through all this.
Yeah.
I would get it because it's funny because I have bushes like on one side of the house and you're like one side of the garage portion and then everything else because they were different bushes. And then there's nothing. And just to see the foundation of the house there in the front lawn is like, that's not attractive. I need bushes there.
Yeah.
But I can't do it for at least, I don't know. I've got to fill out everything and get the approved bushes and then put it into landscape architecture, so I can't do anything for at least a month.
I'm trying to find sod because I'm adding some sod to one part of my yard that didn't have sod in that place before, didn't have grass in that place before. And it's like you can order a pallet, which is way too much. I don't need that much. Or you can go like I always do and just load the back of your truck and then, buy it piece by piece. Well, it's been odd because we've had these cooler waves come through, a little bit of rain here and there, not really a lot of rain. But I called this one place and they were like, "No, we're closed." You mean you open later today? Or no, we're closed. We're not harvesting right now because of the rain. And I'm thinking, oh, we harvest daily. That's all great and wonderful, but I mean, it's like it's just one piece at a time, or how does this work? And they're usually dealing with home builders, that kind of, and they come in huge rolls,
right?
So I'm going over to the hardware store, and the hardware store, they only keep a small pile of it, and it's seasonal. Well, it's still kind of early in the season. And so if anything comes in, then some of the guys that work on lawns will come in and get a few pieces for the lawns they're working on, and then it goes. It's gone. Truckload comes in, and it's gone in a couple of days. And I'm thinking, well, come on. Can't you call me? I go by there actually every morning. I've been going by there for 2 weeks now, every morning when we get off the air, to see if there's any in, because they keep it in this area right there in the front of the store. And what's happening is when the truck is unloading, you've got people that are sitting there waiting on it, and they're just loading it all up, and it's gone. So trying to get some sod, trying to get some other things, but it should be done soon.
Yeah, so then I've got a bunch of other projects, and so each one I've got to find out if I've got to contact the homeowners association, even if I'm not changing anything.
Right.
I may have to. I'm not sure yet. I may have to. I just want to restain my front door, have it sanded, restain it, the same stain. I think I have to get it approved.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, I swear, it's like living in California.
Yeah. I don't have one. We have Texas Monthly did a story on the town that I live in, and said that we have more city codes than any HOA has on the books, but I won't live in an HOA area. If an elected official has an issue with it, then okay, but I won't live under an HOA.
Well, I moved in and I moved into a new area. Nobody was around, and figured it was a new house. I won't have any problems. I remember
15 years later.
15, yeah, exactly. It's like, what was my neighbor told me today? He goes, well, year 16 and 17 that we're in right now, this is when when everything starts breaking down. I'm like,
that's actually, when you close on your home, I said, okay, about 12 to 15 years, that's where the turnover starts to happen. My house is 55 years old. So, yeah, I've gone through a few things. Just since I've lived in it, in the 20 years I've lived in it, I've replaced both AC and heating systems, including all the duct work, twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we, when I moved in, I put, the small satellite dish on.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had, and this was a year later, and all the houses were new in the streets, so everybody did it. Everybody got this warning that nobody in the homeowners association, it was a new management came in and said, none of these satellite dishes have been approved under everyone on the street. It's like they handed out 1,000 of these.
Yeah.
And it's like, you must take a picture of it. You must do this. You must do that. And so I actually did everything and sent it in. And then the next day after I sent it in, it came back, okay, we're rescinding this.
Wow.
The satellite dish is not a permanent structure.
Yeah, right.
Because they were calling it a permanent structure. And it's not like the old satellite dishes from the 80s.
Right.
It's a small little dish. sitting up there, and it was
Not
like,
like-
and so, but they backed off. So they'll hit you as an individual, but when 1,000 people start complaining, then it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones in the 80s, it was like the movie Contact.
Yes.
9,000 channels, and I can detect life on other planets. Only 200 a month.
And now, I mean, it's still up, but I don't use it because I dropped it.
Yeah.
And
No,
I'm still amazed how I don't miss it at all, and how I didn't have any idea when I dropped it about a year ago. I had no idea how many streaming TV services there were that were free.
Well,
I had no idea.
I have my internet through a cable company, and what they do is they give you access. If you get their internet service, they give you access to all the basically the basic cable. I never watch it. Occasionally, if there's breaking news, I'll turn it on, but I still don't watch it, and it's no added cost at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nothing of interest there. Everything for me is streaming, and I can get so much live streaming even on breaking news coverage.
I don't. I think I have Newsmax on one of the streaming channels, and OAN. I don't have Fox, but I have the Fox Now, so I get basically the news from Fox. But I don't get a chance to watch primetime anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
right,
as we
right,
talked
right.
about yesterday with Tucker, I just
Right.
I just don't get a chance to watch the complete shows because I'm asleep all the time.
Right.
But what they do have on these, and I think every 2 or 3 of the streaming services have it. I know Pluto does. Is they have so many of all the major markets. They've got all the local stations' news.
Yeah, yeah,
and different channels on it. And if it's if it's a CBS station like in L.A.,
yeah.
And they're not running news at the moment or breaking news or something like that, if it's just regular programming, they go to, basically the CBS news streaming feed.
Right.
But any breaking news that happens, you can get it from the local perspective. I'm like, and it's free. I'm like, well, that's better than I have more selection for what I like than I ever had, and I was paying for I wasn't getting anything exotic at all.
Right.
I wasn't getting the sports channels or anything, and it was still $130, $140 a month. And I'm paying nothing, and I get more of what I want.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't know that. And even here, because this is such a big market, all the digital stations. And what I realize is, I'm old because it's like, wow, look, they got all the shows I want. Oh, all the new latest shows? No, look, Cheers is on every 5 minutes.
Right.
Becker, I like Becker's on. It's like, oh,
No, I found myself going
Mary
back and
Tyler
watching
Moore.
older movies every once in a while. The other day, I watched the movie Heat.
Yeah. Oh, they got all the older movies. And,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so they did this for the old people. No, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I bet a bunch of old people are watching this stuff. Oh, yeah. That's me.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. 866-90 Red Eye. If you're just tuning in, last hour we were talking about just where the Democratic Party, the future of the Democratic Party and the future of the Republican Party now that Biden has announced and Trump has announced. And I guess the expectation is you will have DeSantis announce here probably in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And also the eventual winner by I've seen his statement yesterday, Chris Christie.
He's calling himself the nominee.
But just talking about where the future goes. But as we mentioned, on every single issue, when you look at the future and you look at where people stand on the issues, everything is for the Republicans. The only thing the Democrats are promoting is the personalities of the Republican Party that, are where they stand on the issues are insane, but the other side is Hitler and Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it really stands right now. But on every issue, we'll talk about the Washington State gun control law that they put into effect and what might happen in the Supreme Court here in just a little bit. But even you see that and they're all celebrating. Well, wait a minute. You're celebrating in a state where, in the cities, in Seattle, for example, the crime has gone up, the problem with defund the police. At the same time, and this is the insanity that regular people can see, that, nobody wants criminals to have guns, right? Right. But it isn't the Republicans that are promoting the fact that if you use a gun in a crime that you shouldn't be punished. Right. That was Bragg, who now is viewed as the top leftist prosecutor in the United States because he's gone after Trump. Well, that's what he wanted to do until he got pushback from the city of New York. He wanted to not charge people with a felony if they used a gun in a crime. Why? Because we need to be sympathetic towards the criminal, yet you need to be banned from owning a gun. So as crime gets worse in the cities, as everybody knows it is, and it's going to continue to get worse, as they can't hire police because police are retiring and quitting in record numbers in all these major cities. So you feel less safe and you are less safe. Then they say, okay, we want to remove the ability for you to protect yourself. It doesn't make sense. Nothing that they do when you break it down on the issues makes any sense to we common folk.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 86690 Red Eye. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. So when you look, and we'll get into the specifics of this gun control law in Washington State that passed yesterday, that probably in all likelihood, from what I can see, will be found unconstitutional when it gets up to the Supreme Court. But when you see, for example, you cannot, common sense tells you, and I said common folk, maybe I should say common sense folk, but common sense folk understand that, that you can't at the same time that you wish to take guns away from the law-abiding citizen of the United States, that then you have a policy to treat criminals better than the victim, as that's what the Democrats have done in many of these states with defund the police, bail reform, not wanting to prosecute certain crimes or even gun crimes in New York City as they need to be. You can't have both. And the common sense person understands that. You can't do that. Yet that's exactly what the Democrats are doing. So the challenge for the Democrats is right now, because they're not going to change on any of the issues. We've seen it. They're doubling down. Did you see where Leah Thomas, we'll get to this story, said that the feminists are misogynist transphobes. Yeah. So now a biological woman, a biological woman who says that a man should not compete, a biological man should not compete with a biological woman, is not only transphobic, but anti-women.
Yeah.
Because they're anti-women because they're choosing biological women over biological men. Well, this is a kind of logic. This is the kind of thing you're dealing with Democrats right now.
We're one step away from them saying biological women don't know what it's like to be a woman. That's basically the step we took, or they took, puts us one step away from that.
And
these women don't know what it's like to be a real woman.
Right. A real woman is a man who becomes a woman.
I'm sorry, did you give birth?
So, I can see the next Bud Light commercial. Real women are men.
That's right.
Drink Bud Light.
That's right.
But this is the insanity. So the challenge for the Democrats is trying to find someone to get back to, Biden announcing. Look, they love the fact that they can manipulate Biden the way they have, to promote all these leftist philosophies.
Yeah.
But they realize he isn't successfully selling it. And the only way that they can win is because they believe they have effectively convinced the American public, and we will see whether they have or not, that the person who they more agree with on the actual issues, which would be any Republican out there, is a new Mussolini or Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we are today, even though on where they stand on the issues have nothing to do with it. Now, as we've stated, that can only go on for so long. Republicans could still lose. Long term, if Republicans stick to their guns, they can't lose. Because as we see what the Democrats are proposing, it fails in real life. It fails to fund the police, failing miserably. We told them. Common sense told everybody it was going to fail. That's a lesson the public has learned. Will that make them say we can't vote Democrat anymore? I did see one poll saying a third of Democrats are thinking of third party. They can't vote Republican, but they're thinking third party. And that's the point that I think the evolution of people's minds understand that the Democrats are insane on the issues. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. They're absolutely insane on the issues. Mm-hmm. And this is the federal Democratic Party, not necessarily local Democrat governments or local Democrat governments that aren't as radical. But the federal, in Congress, when you see, for example, every single Democrat voted for a biological man to compete against a biological woman, that's radical. That's radical to the American public. So on the federal level, they're as radical as can be. So their whole goal is we got to find somebody who can sell this. My question is, maybe Newsom could sell it better in 2024 than Biden. But he's not going to be able to sell it. I don't care whether you have the Coach Pat Riley of the Lakers look. I don't believe you can sell it 10 years from now if the Democrats stay in power.
No.
I don't believe that the Democrats can continue selling the insanity because there is no moderating and they used to moderate in order to win. And they put in Biden to pretend that they were moderating, but it didn't, but he didn't moderate.
Well, you just hit it. What you do to moderate, and Obama did this like 2 hours before the election in 2008. No, they all did it. After the primary, you come back to the middle.
Right.
And the reason you're doing that is because you want those folks in the flyover states, to believe that you're a moderate. But they can't do that now because the activists rule the party. The activist has absolutely no interest in the people in the middle. But this is interesting because it's exactly what gets us to a point of, and the point made in, we brought you talking about the National Review piece, in how essentially this is how the woke in positions of power completely ignore their consumer base, but the party is ignoring the American people, but they win. Well, how do they win? Well, you can only win for so long before everything on the issues catches up with you, as you pointed out, defund the police, the broken border. All of these things, these are no longer debates. You can ignore them and try and pretend that it didn't happen if you're on the left. But honestly, you're limited on how long you can do that, too. So they're limited in how long the biggest rock star of their party even can sell what they're trying to sell.
And the biggest difference is now, as we explained before, everything over the last couple of decades was abstract. Democrats, by controlling more of government and more of capital, will make your life better. Republicans with, the Wild West capitalism will not. Right?
Right.
Well, what have we found out? The American public knows government spending can't continue to be this insane. It's caused the inflation that we see today and will continue to cause inflation and cause economic problems. What has happened is the abstract is no longer abstract. The abstract has come right up against reality on every issue. On the border, defund the police. Defund the police was great as an abstract concept, right?
Yeah.
We're going to defund the police, and we're going to put medical personnel out there, mental health experts, and they'll go up when there's a domestic dispute, and they will handle it instead of police.
Right.
Well, that was insane, and we said it was insane. But on the abstract, that sounds a lot better. Sorry, you guys on Red Eye, you're wrong about that. This is going to defund the police and putting it into blah, 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 blah. You were wrong. You were wrong not because Red Eye says you're wrong, as if Red Eye is this other entity besides you and me. I see this big red eye looking at people.
Exactly.
You're wrong from the sky, this red eye looking down. You were wrong.
Are we listening to Lord of the Rings?
Reality told you were wrong.
That's it.
That's what happened. Reality hit it. Got nothing to do with our opinion. Our opinion was based on reality, not because we wished to hold a particular narrative that was untrue. We held that narrative because it was true. Police are needed, and you can't replace police, and you can't replace police with guns. You can't do it. It doesn't work that way, and now we're finding that out. And that's the problem that they have. And so that is the difference over the last, really, since I've been doing talk radio in 89. Everything back then was abstract. Okay, Democrats can run it better in the future. Well, we've reached the future. We've now come... And every issue is no longer abstract. We have felt the reality of defund the police, of the border, we can run on a clean energy system. Well, that's all bogus. We know that's not the truth. Everything now is finally hitting the truth of reality. And that's why it's limited where the Democrats can go. And then you say, well, who can sell it? And I said, well, maybe Newsom could sell it for a couple of more years. Maybe he could sell it and use the envy and jealousy and the false statements that Republicans are Mussolini and Hitler. And I use Mussolini because didn't they refer to DeSantis as Mussolini instead of Hitler?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Exactly. So, and eventually people smarten up and go, wait a minute. You guys are just fear-mongering. You don't have it on anything, any of the issues, you don't have it. Now, the majority of American people, you look at the actual issues, agree with the Republicans. Well, then, who can sell it for the Democrats? Who are the new Democrats out there? Can the squad sell it? They had AOC out there trying to sell the Green New Deal. Does anybody believe that AOC can sell what she believes to the majority of the public?
No.
Can anybody from the squad? Can Hakeem Jeffries sell anything to the public?
No,
he can't. Who is the new leadership, the new people inside the Democratic Party that can sell the insanity? They don't exist. They don't exist long term. There is nobody, because anybody who's joining the Democratic Party right now is as radical as you can possibly get. Remember, every Democrat that voted on the bill last week voted that biological males can be biological females if they say so. Every single one of them. That's how insane they are. On the Republican side, you got plenty of people coming up. We mentioned Representative Donald of Florida. I will say this: when all the Republican women from the House, stood out and talked about protecting women's sports, Elise Stefanik was the best I've ever seen her.
Yeah.
I looked at her and I went, whoa, okay, she's really getting it together. She's really, And I'm like, okay, there's another potential. They are full of potential leaders, but full of potential leaders that can sell what Americans actually believe. And that's the difference. But everything, debt, the national debt. Remember, just a year ago, well, you guys are exaggerating the national debt. It's no problem whatsoever. It doesn't work that way. Gary doing that, remember that? Gary doing that swimming thing where he took off all the 8 zeros and tried to compare the national debt to somebody who makes $40,000 a year. Well, it's not the same thing. They're two different things. Well, yeah, they're two different things. It's an analogy to make you think about what the debt actually is, but now we realize that they really aren't two different things.
Well, because
overextending and having too much debt is bad if you're an individual and bad if you're a country.
Yep. I mean, there clearly is a difference in that the private sector would keep an individual from going into that kind of debt by saying you can't keep doing that. But the American public, by and large, will not do that with our own money. We won't say, you can't keep doing this.
And the thing is, everybody in their life plans long term. So they're thinking about it. Everybody knows what's right.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to financial things, because we actually think about it all the time. Where am I going to be in 10 years? What am I going to be doing? So everybody knows, I know we want the immediate gratification, but everybody knows that mindset is wrong because they're always thinking, what about my future? What am I going to do in the future? Am I preparing for the future? And that's why on financial issues or fiscal issues, Republicans have the moral high ground and the public knows it.
Yep. Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90-RED-EYE. Well, I just thought we should do that and, project out where the Democrats and Republicans are going over the next decade or so. Because it's, at times people say, well, we're doomed guys. Well, no, there's actually hope. It's just when people will eventually change.
Yeah.
When reality hits, when everything isn't abstract anymore. How long will it take for the evolution to happen?
Right.
We hope quickly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. 866-90-RED-EYE if you would like to get in. Just reading here, this yesterday from Fox. Alvin Bragg's deputy says prosecutors have power to change the justice system by declining to charge criminals. If prosecutors don't charge a crime, a judge can't sentence that crime, said Alvin Bragg's chief prosecutor said. Now, that was back in 2017, but that they're just letting you know the philosophy. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's chief prosecutor, Meg Rice, has previously said that prosecutors can ignore the rule of law and supplant their own ideology into prosecution decisions. Chief Assistant District Attorney Rice said in 2017 that prosecutors can use their power to ignore mandatory minimum laws at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Nobody understands the amount of discretion the prosecutors have. She stressed the independent power they have to decline prosecution cases that can affect systemic change to the criminal justice system, which she believes is racist. So you've got prosecutors going in there that are stating we will not enforce the law.
We're not going to prosecute.
Yep. You know, if prosecutors don't charge a crime, a judge can't sentence to that crime. And we know this is true because we saw what Bragg did when he came in and he had to back off on it because of public response.
Right.
Think about this. A prosecutor comes in to New York City. Think about this. And says, if you rob a store with a gun, we will not charge you with the felony unless you pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Does any Democrat think that that's sane? Could you imagine at a different time if a Republican had come out and said that? Think about this. I don't agree with the gun laws out there. So everybody should have a gun, and if you don't use a gun, you shouldn't be punished. Even to the point of if you're a criminal and use a gun, because you have a right to have a gun, if you use it to commit a crime and don't shoot the gun, you shouldn't be charged with a felony. Could you imagine if that was done because you were pro-gun and thought that criminals should have guns?
I mean, if it were the NRA promoting that, that you shouldn't be charged with a felony as long as you don't pull the trigger. It would be all over.
You know, if prosecutors don't charge a crime, a judge can't sentence that crime. If police officers make certain arrests, they can decline to prosecute, and police officers can keep making arrests, but if the prosecutor decides not to prosecute, then that's it.
Yep.
So the will of the people be damned.
Yep. And look, it's no secret anymore, and they're proud to promote it.
Yep.
Been going on for years now, and what do you see as a result of that?
Well, think about this, and this goes back to the article that in fact, you were reading earlier, National Review, that was just talking about the left in general and the belief, and we had related all the way back to Bernard Goldberg's book, Bias, when he first wrote it, that said, you know, look, you're thinking it's left versus right. Yeah. They don't think that way.
No.
They don't think they're left. They just think that they know the way that society should be run. They view, even if they are left, they don't view themselves as left. They view themselves as just the righteous ones who understand and have to explain to the dumb people in flyover America, you know, how this society should really be. You're sort of too stupid to understand that. You know, it's why we've always on the show, and when you were gone about a month and a half ago, I had a guy who called the show and did the thing that we hate, where he called and he just said, well, I just want you to know that I'm a truck driver, and then he repeated it again.
Yeah, I'm just a truck driver.
I said, truck driver. Remember the janitor one time who called him just a janitor? We said, don't ever say that. Don't say that. Don't make that. Do not make the job that you are working and any indication of your intelligence or your common sense or your critical thinking.
And do not create the anointed where it doesn't belong.
Right. Because by doing so, you create that anointed, that anointment, the annoying anointment. Ointment. The beauty of getting older, there is some great things about getting older.
Yeah.
And one of them is, as you go through life, even when I became a talk show host and a politician would come in, I'm like, oh, wow, you know, these are somebody who's a congressperson. And now it's like,
exactly.
You know, I respect the position that was established in the Constitution. I don't want to make, that's not my point. It's the people I don't respect. It's the people, the individuals that are trying to sell that they know more than you,
right,
and they're completely clueless.
Right.
And now I'm to this point. Well, I think everybody is, you know, when you see the current president of the United States, and when you say, I could do a better job, and then you realize that's not an exaggeration. And so
no, I mean,
don't do what the elite want you to do, which is subjugate yourself to them by stating, well, I am only.
We thank you for coming on the show, Senator Fetterman, and we greatly appreciate the fact that you wore your good basketball shorts to our studios. This is the insanity over and over again that's demonstrated, and we do far too often. Hand people way too much credit.
Mm-hmm. We do.
The piece in National Review. Again, the title of it is "Why Woke Companies Deliberately Alienate Their Consumers," and it's Wilfred Riley, and he in fact when he talks about the Anointed, and that's actually based on a book by Thomas Sowell that he brings up in this article, and this is the attitude of these individuals, and it reads in part here, this piece in National Review: "An anointed, benighted discourse. The goal of the Anointed isn't an honest exchange of views so much as teaching the benighted what the new truth is, changing and broadening their provincial little minds. It's hard not to see a great deal of this dynamic, specifically in the Dylan Mulvaney case. The executive responsible for that hire was the first female senior VP ever to run the Bud Light brand, and she brutally condemned it as fratty. Fratty. Remember the whole frat boys thing? Mm-hmm. And in need of some seasoning in a now viral podcast interview that likely led to her being, I don't know, what is she on spring break? What'd they give her?
I think spring break to hang down with the fraternities. The fraternities.
She's going to have a beer summit with frat boys. And, that's basically it, is that they don't really care. They don't really care about those individuals because they honestly believe that those individuals don't matter. This is why I said the other day, she's not qualified for that job because it's clear now what she believes. The education, even prior experience, doesn't mean a thing. Because when you walk into a new job, especially at that level, think about that. The senior VP of marketing for Bud Light, the number one at the time, the number one domestic beer I saw where the drop had been 17%.
17%, yeah.
17%. That is massive drop. But when you walk in to, at that time, the number one domestic beer company, what you want to do is, if you feel like, and you should feel like it, whether you believe it or not, you should start with the mindset that I don't know our consumer base, and I need to get out there and learn more about them. Because I need to find out every single day, because the trend could change. It could go away. Remember, the trends were changing during the COVID thing. And they do believe that there is a generational thing going on with alcohol right now, too. So you always want to have your finger on the pulse and find out, is our customer base that's been loyal over all these years, is there anything changing in their lives? And what about, the next generation and all of this? Don't assume you know a thing. In fact, pretend and act every day as if you know nothing and that you're here to learn everything you can. That's not who they are.
No.
You don't know anything, and you're the one that buys their product.
You're not walking in there thinking, I have a responsibility. A huge responsibility has been put on me. I'm the chief marketing director to ensure that we keep the market share that we have in an ever-widening, because you can look at it and you say, okay, craft beer has cut into, beer overall, but still there's a ton of stuff. I tell you, there's a ton of stuff, for example, that I would look at in any type of light beer. And that is, number one, the carbs and calories in it. That if you're going to sell it to the consumer, if you're going to sell it, you do it in ways where you can expand the base without hurting your core.
Yeah.
So if you talk about the fact, because Bud Light, people actually, it may be a working class kind of beer. So is Bud, but Bud Light, people choose Bud Light. Why? Well, because fewer calories, fewer carbs. Those are the things. There's a wide branch of how you can sell it without narrowing it down to identity politics.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and that would be as, and I know nothing about marketing beer, but that's how I would approach it. That would be the questions I would have if somebody brought me in for an interview. Those would be the questions I have. What is your market? What are you trying to do? What do you expect? What do you expect me to do? Where do you want to project, this beer, to? What do you see the future, of it would be some of the questions that I would have. But she came in as if she was all-knowing and basically saying, I'm going to take this product and I'm going to educate people as to how, through identity politics, we need to market this, not necessarily to get more beer drinkers.
Right.
Because is that what she's thinking? Is if I relate it to identity politics, I will get people to drink it because it relates to the identity politics of it and not its fine Pilsner taste. By the way, that was also a horrible commercial a few years ago. I think it was Miller, the people on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really like it because it has a fine Pilsner taste. Like, nobody in the history of beer has ever said that.
No, I gave up Pilsner years ago. I'm totally Pilsner free. I don't know what Pilsner is.
I now you could talk about that. You could talk about hops. If you're selling a craft beer, you can actually do that because people are paying attention to the specifics of that craft beer.
Yeah, even then, I know somebody in the retail craft beer industry, and what they realized was, at least for their customer base in their region, it was more about, okay, the craft beer has a higher alcohol content, and I'm willing to pay more for it, and I do like the taste. But when you get into the how it's made thing, they were like
hops, the Pilsner. Yeah,
I like the taste. I had a friend who made wine and said, I'm not an expert on wine. I just know what I like in terms of the taste. I can sit here and talk the details and everything else, but I really, at the end of it, I just know what I like in terms of taste. And, with Bud Light, it also had been part of heavy campaigns in major sports and all over television, social media, and digital, everywhere. And it was a very simple campaign. And there are things you're going to have to adjust as a company. The market is always changing. And market share is going to go, back and forth. Whatever you're losing it to, then you're going to have to find out why and how you make that adjustment. Look, the soft drink companies knew. We're going to have to expand into water. We're going to have to expand into energy drinks. We're going to have to expand into whatever gets our parent company more shelf space.
You made me think of Sideways when the wine movie.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul Giamatti's, they're at the wine tasting place and he's sitting there and sniffing it and everything else. And Thomas Hayden Church is looking at it, smiling, okay, yeah. And so he's like, and then you taste it and Thomas Hayden Church just chugs it.
Yeah.
And then Paul Giamatti looks at him, his character, and goes, are you chewing gum?
Right. Yeah.
He goes, I think it tastes good.
Right. I mean, and sometimes it's just the marketing that comes across on a product. But that's it. In that position, if you don't know who your customer base is and why you're there and that it's not about you, you're not qualified to be there.
866-90-RED-I.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carney, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90-RED-EYE. You saw that gun control law in Washington that passed, right? And the celebration by the governor and all that.
Yeah.
And, a couple of dozen, I guess, of semi-automatic rifles will be off the, cannot be sold. Now you can own them. You just can't sell them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Inslee's saying.
They didn't say you couldn't own it. You just can't sell it.
Saying you don't need a AR-15 to protect your family. You only need one to go kill other families. And I thought, this is the ignorance all over again. But the left is full on into it. That's, Inslee has no problem politically.
Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, Pol Pot, Gary, Eric. Love 'em or hate 'em. Red Eye Radio.
What? Hate 'em? What? Eric over there, Gary over here. Download our app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so Governor Inslee and Attorney General Bob Ferguson in Washington State got their gun control package, which includes a ban on the manufacture, sale, and import of so-called assault weapons, mandatory safety training, and a 10-day waiting period to buy a gun, and a bill requiring gun makers and dealers to take reasonable steps to keep their products out of the hands of dangerous individuals. They talked to one gun dealer here, Fox News did, who said anytime there's a one-party state, whatever comes to their mind, they can actually put through. He said Washington State used to be one of the best states for gun rights in the nation, and but lawmakers have chipped away at the Second Amendment over the past couple of years. If this law goes into effect and a judge doesn't throw it out, we will by far be the worst state in this country for firearms rights. Well, that's the one point. If they allow them to do this, then you can take the next step. And we said we know where this is going. It's the same thing where everything on the left goes. First, you get rid of the semi-automatic rifles, which are only responsible for a very few deaths as compared to the totality of firearms in this country, the vast majority is handguns. And once you get rid of the rifles, you say, okay, well, that wasn't the major problem. We now need to focus on the major problem, and that would be handguns.
Right.
But I do see states, because as you've seen, Washington State, sort of an anomaly, because as you've seen, we now have the majority of states are constitutional carry for handguns.
Yeah.
And so, it depends where you are. And this is, I guess, this is the beauty of federalism, except for the fact that the Second Amendment would supersede federalism in this case.
Right.
As to how far you can go in it. And it will be interesting to see what the actual arguments are because lawsuit was filed immediately.
Yeah. Look, a 10-day waiting period, that always reminds me of a Simpsons episode where Homer goes to buy a gun and they say there's a 3-day waiting period. 3 days? Then I'm angry now. And, this whole idea of, all right, there's going to be a 10-day waiting period. Well, I mean, how long could you extrapolate that out? I'm sure if you're on the left, there's a 2-year waiting period. If they had their wish, if they had their wish, all law-abiding citizens would have no guns, and the criminals wouldn't get prosecuted
for having guns, right?
Oh, wait, that's not their wish. That's exactly what they're doing right now. Oh, sorry. I thought I had faded into some kind of delusional state, and that's our reality, where prosecutors don't want to prosecute the criminals and the law-abiding citizens don't have a right to protect themselves.
I forgot who wrote the article a couple of weeks ago that said, think about this. It's actually Democrats that are pushing people to buy guns.
Yeah.
The reason people are buying guns is because of the Democratic policy. Democrats want fewer guns, yet what they're doing is they're making the streets more unsafe. They're defunding the police. They're letting more criminals out. They lied, by the way, about the prisons, that the majority of people in prisons were there for nonviolent drug offenses. And you saw the research that's been done on that. That was completely blown out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't true. And so at the same time, it's like, well, if you don't want people to buy guns, well, then be very, very strict and prosecute crimes that are committed to the fullest extent of the law as the legislature has passed, which is the will of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to make it so everybody in the country knows that it's less safe, that odds are there's going to be fewer police to help you if something goes wrong or be there to assist you. And
fewer
we're going to
armed citizens.
Right, and we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that you can't protect yourself. Well, you might be able to sell one or the other, but you can't sell both. Because even liberals understand, well, wait a minute. If you're defunding the police, that's insane. Crime is skyrocketing. Everything's going up. Carjackings, everything else. I need a gun for personal self-protection. Because as we know, some of the biggest increases over the last couple of years to buy guns, women and blacks.
Mm-hmm. Well, when the left has been successful in your town in defunding police, and even beyond defunding police, creating an enemy in those who serve in law enforcement, and therefore driving down the will of people to serve in those communities. You just don't have people. I'm shocked, in fact, that there's anyone left that's willing to serve under those circumstances, where the cities and prosecutors are working against their efforts every single day. God bless the people who are in those cities that still do that job. It's mind-boggling to me. I can't imagine how insanely tough that must be every day to put the uniform on and go out. I have to believe that the thought is, I'm the last one in line. We're the last ones here to protect the people, and I'm still getting a paycheck, and I'm still going to do what I believe in doing, and I'm going to work against anyone who's working against law and order in this community. I have to believe that is the mindset.
I don't know if they can replace all the police. They haven't.
No,
been
no.
In most of major cities,
I don't think they have.
They have not been successful in doing it. We saw what they did in Austin when they defunded the police, and now the state police. They're subcontracting state police to come in.
Yeah. I wasn't saying that they can. I'm saying that I'm shocked that anyone is left.
Yeah.
That wants to do those jobs that anyone is serving in those cities.
I was just in general. I wasn't. That comment wasn't meant for your statement.
And
just in general,
I think ultimately, because you see every police chief now dealing with the same thing. Their churn rate is so high. It's costing a lot of money for just to keep up. If you think about what goes into hiring, training, but especially in that job, it's a great deal of expense when there's such a turnover. That person is likely not going to be there in a few years. They're going to move on.
I would say that most people join the police because that is the profession that they wish to work in. I don't believe that's like a normal job for most
it is
police
a calling.
officers.
It is a calling.
It's a calling. You're driven to do it. You're driven to serve. Logic, since we've been talking about the not the common folk, but the common sense folk out there, the common sense folk would all understand, not the elitist out there, but the common folk would understand that the reason that police wish to do that job is because it's a calling. Therefore, do they wish to go to a place where they will have a supportive management and government to back them up when they do right? I'm sure they all know that if they do wrong, they will be punished and should be punished if they do wrong, just like anyone else. I would also assume that most police officers believe that because they have taken this responsibility and because they have authority that is not granted to an average citizen, that they must hold themselves to a higher standard than the average person out there, that is the goal that they reach for. And therefore, since they're willing to put out that sacrifice and they're willing to live their life with that mindset to serve, and they have a responsibility to hold themselves to a higher standard, that they wish to work with other people who think the same way and have a government that backs them the same way. And if that isn't there, it means what? They'll move to the suburbs,
where the pay is often greater.
Yep.
And the support is much greater as well.
Yep.
And, when I was going through that process, and I consulted my dad a few times, he was military law enforcement and also taught law enforcement criminal investigation. And so naturally, I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I was going to leave radio. It was before I came to this job. And he gave me some guidance. But there was one other thing, and I've actually never said it out loud to anybody, that ultimately was a big part of my decision, and that was the fact that I had lost most of my hearing in my left ear. And at that point, we couldn't find a hearing aid to correct that hearing. And ultimately, I couldn't go through that process because I asked myself repeatedly, do you trust yourself? if you're in a situation and you can't hear, and the answer came back every time, no. And I don't know, I could never live with myself if there was something that I knew going in, and even if I had, were able to find a hearing aid at that time that worked and to the level that the, clinically they say was working, I couldn't fully trust it because it is one moment. You have one moment to get it right or get it wrong. And if I knew that going in, then the answer has to be no. And I've never said that out loud, not even to my wife. And she and I had a lot of discussion about that because when you look to go into that line of work, then your family is important because then they're going to become the family of law enforcement. And that is also a very huge consideration. It is, if you had told me at that time, when I was going through that, when I was considering it and looking into it, that this is where we would be some nearly 30 years later, I would tell you, you're watching too many movies. That's not going to be the case. People want more funding for police. Nobody would ever get away with that. And there's no way you're ever going to have prosecutors want to win. No, they don't. They consider themselves just like the marketing execs who don't care about their consumers. Mm-hmm. These prosecutors don't care about the people of their communities. It's not about protecting their communities. They believe they're a hero. They believe they're there for another purpose. It is not about law and order. This is their justice. Their justice is going to be done behind the scenes, and you don't get a say about it.
Think about it. Their goal is the opposite of the job description.
Yeah. To work against the job. That's like
us going on the air and just being silent. Well, it's a new kind of radio.
It's insanity, and it would be, it would be like having a bunch of cops collectively, because it's happening not just in one prosecutor's office. It's happening in other major blue cities. It would be just like cops all over the U.S. just wanting to start riots and commit criminal acts over and over again. And that's going to be their new mission. This is insanity.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning and welcome. Well, did you know that President Biden announced he's running again?
No joke.
They didn't want you to know that, but
serious. No joke.
Coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.